Moving with a family is a big deal. Trust me, I get it. I've done it before. So I understand what goes into the planning and the consideration. And especially if you're moving to a big city like Los Angeles, you've really got to think things through. Now, if you already have a family, you're thinking, is this going to be a right place to raise my kids? Or if you're going to be moving here with the intention of having kids or raising a family in the future, you want to know if you're making the right move. I'm here to say that there are some great reasons to move to Los Angeles and some reasons you may want to consider not moving here. So in this video, we are going to go over the top 5 reasons to move with your family to Los Angeles, or not. Maybe you want to reconsider. All right, the first item on the list is opportunities. Now, this is going to be an overarching theme that's going to connect all the other items on the list, but I wanted to specifically bring to light or shed light on the amount of opportunities that your kids will have and that you will have as a family here in Los Angeles. And some truly unique experiences that you're just not going to be able to find or do in other places in the country. Example, where else can you wake up in the morning, grab your ski gear, head up to the mountains 2.5 hours away, do a day of skiing, head back down the mountain 2.5 hours back to Los Angeles, and hit up the sunset at the beach. It is an incredible thing to do. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it, and your kids will never forget. We also have SpaceX and JPL here that launch rockets here. It's a really cool thing for kids to do, a family outing, to go watch rocket launches. Again, opportunities that you just wouldn't find in other places that your kids would not have that exposure to. Now, these are things you're not going to do on a daily basis, but let's talk about some of the opportunities out there. I know I've said opportunities a ton, but that's because there are so many in Los Angeles that affect you and your family on a day-to-day basis. Now, we'll start off with different programs and different youth programs that they have available in Los Angeles. I'm not going to go over all the specific ones just because there are so many, and that's kind of the point I wanted to bring to you watching this video, is that if you're coming from especially smaller cities that, and I've heard this from family and friends, have experienced this before, where you're looking to see what programs during the summer, maybe it's a summer camp, and you're trying to choose what for your kids to experience, and you have to choose whether they want an art class or maybe a science class, and they can't do both in the same year because they run at the same time, and then you have to wait a full year if you want to try the other one. Well, in Los Angeles, there are programs throughout the year, and because the city's so big and there's so many resources, that you can do art class one season, science the next season, the sport camp the next season, and you don't have to wait a full year to do that. Plus, there are hundreds of art classes, hundreds of robotics classes that you can find throughout the city, so you can choose from not just one or two, but many different ones, and depending on where you're working or where you're living, you'll pick one that suits your lifestyle. But that's kind of the point, is that you're not just kind of pigeonholed into one or two programs that you have to choose from. You've got so many to choose from, and it's throughout the year. And that's what I love about the city of Los Angeles, especially raising a family, is I have so many choices and so many unique things. Whether I'm going to send the kids to the zoo for a program or a camp, I'm going to send them to the Space Museum, the History Museum, an art museum, whatever it is, it's just right there for you. They've got Discovery Cube, great museum for kids, and a lot of cultural experiences and opportunities that you may not be able to experience in other parts of the country. The sheer amount of museums that we have here, cultural events, festivals, the food that they're going to be exposed to, these are all fall under the opportunities that you would not necessarily have unless you're living in a city like Los Angeles. And being able to expose your family to all of these different opportunities is really enriching, and it can be very inspirational for kids as they grow up, and just kind of lets their mind expand on what is out there and what can be and who they can be. And you get that when living in the city of LA. As a reminder, I'm Dave Fein with the Real Estate Dads, a licensed real estate agent right here in Los Angeles. If you're thinking about making the move to LA, make sure you reach out to us, phone, text, email, WhatsApp, however which way you want to get a hold of us. We've got your back when moving to LA. And if you like what you see, subscribe, tap the bell to get notified of my videos. Comment below. We'd love to hear from our audience out there. All right, number 2 on the list is weather. 300 days plus of sun. Need I say more? Now, if you're raising a family and you have kids, then you definitely understand the importance of being able to go outside. And when you can go outside pretty much year round, not pretty much, you can go outside year round in Los Angeles, and it is a thing of beauty. Now, if you don't have kids, but you're thinking about raising kids, moving to LA, then you may not quite understand the importance of being outside and getting that break and getting that fresh air, but I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference. When I talk to family and friends that live elsewhere, they are constantly telling me as soon as fall and winter hits, they've got to find activities indoors or they're staying in their house. Well, not in Los Angeles. You can be outside again all year round, finding all things to do. You don't need to be cooped up inside. You don't have winter weather. You're not shoveling snow off your driveway to back out just to run a simple errand or take your kid to a sporting event or take your kid to art class or whatever it is. You're not chiseling ice off your window. Oh my gosh, that is such a pain. I've done it. It is not fun. It is freezing out and you're just trying to de-ice your window. Not cool. Not in LA. I mean, from shoveling snow to chiseling ice off your window, that's like a 30-minute event, maybe more depending on how much snow you have and how much ice. But that just takes up part of your day and you're kind of exhausted from it. At least I am. And then putting on winter clothes or even just rain jacket and rain boots for your kids, it can be a nightmare, especially if young kids are kind of battling, trying to not layer up, but you know they have to. Well, in Los Angeles, you don't have to worry about any of that. Sure, we get some rain here and there. In this past winter, we actually had some historic storms, but it is not the norm. And when you can just go outside, shorts and a t-shirt, flip-flops or shoes, whatever it is quick, it is easy, and it is a thing of beauty. It makes for happier kids because they're not wrestling you trying to put clothes on. It makes for happier parents because you're not wrestling them trying to put their clothes on, and you can just get out the door, and I feel like everyone's just a bit happier. It also helps us get a little breather when we can send the kids right into the backyard, go play outside, or go out in the front yard, go play with your friends outside, get on your bike, do whatever, go roam the neighborhood. When you're in places that have those fall and winter weathers, you're not really doing that because it is too cold, too rainy, too icy, too snowy, and it's just not going to happen. So it is nice that mom and dad want a breather. We can sit on the couch and chill and relax or get some things done, send them out. We're not hearing them chirping in our ear, asking for a snack, telling me they need to do something or they need help with this. They just go outside and play, and it's awesome. Plus, it's cool to have some good family time. We get to eat outdoors constantly. I love eating outside, barbecuing, grilling it up, and just having a nice meal outside, fresh air. Go to the beach, enjoy the weather year round. That's not something you can do throughout most places of the world, but in Los Angeles you can. Go to the parks. If you're into sports, you've got sports year round. You just don't have to be relegated to spring and summer. They've got fall ball, and it's like actually league. It's not just instructional, but they've got full-on leagues in the fall. They got soccer year round outside. Football outside year round. It is awesome. I love not feeling cooped up. I love to be able to go on a hike whenever I want throughout the entire year. I love that we can have outdoor parties in January. I mean, that is awesome too. Or February. My birthday is in February and it's never rained on my birthday. I've had my parties outside when I was a kid, and to this day I like to be outside as an adult, and I celebrate outside as well in February in Los Angeles because it's most likely not going to be raining, and it's certainly not going to be super cold. Even just running errands, you got to go a quick trip to the market, quick trip to Target, quick trip to wherever you're going, and you just get in your car and you go. You don't have to worry about your car getting all muddy. You don't worry about your car getting wet from the rain, kids bringing in the mud from their boots. None of that. You don't have to wash your car as often. It is awesome. So weather plays a big role when raising kids, in my opinion. So take note that the weather here is awesome, and I think it will definitely positively impact your lives, your kids' lives. I just think vitamin D and getting that sunlight, overall happiness, is something that will just be enriching for your kids, yourself, and your family as a whole. All right, number 3 on the list is the worldly culture that you get to experience here in Los Angeles, and I think it is second to none because you don't have to leave the city to be exposed to cultures from around the world, and that I think is pretty special. I loved it growing up as a kid. Things that I would have never ever been exposed to or experienced living in a smaller city or other places in the country. But in Los Angeles, I had friends from all over the world. Growing up in Los Angeles as a kid, I got to experience things that to me were quite normal, not realizing that my cousins in other parts of the country had no idea what I was talking about, hadn't seen it, hadn't experienced it. And I love that my kids got to experience the same thing as well. Whether it's in school, outside of school, cultural events, it is all right here in Los Angeles. Now, we also have a lot of different enclaves, different neighborhoods that kind of cater to specific cultures. We have Koreatown, a Chinatown, Little Japan. We've got Alpharetta Street, Fairfax District, Little Ethiopia, and so many more little centers and enclaves. But besides that, just being in LA, pretty much in all neighborhoods, you're going to see cultures from all over the world. You're going to experience festivals from all over the world, wherever you are in Los Angeles, and food from all over the world. Food is such a big part of my life, and I love to share that with my kids and have it. It's a big part of their life where they get to experience different foods from around the world. Again, not something that you necessarily would find in other parts of the country. And you're just not strapped down to like one or two restaurants of a certain culture, but again, hundreds of restaurants from cultures around the world. In addition to all the food experiences, you get festivities, all the festivals. You have the Obon festivals, you've got Italian festivals, Oktoberfest, Cinco de Mayo. You've got so many festivals that happen throughout the year. And again, not just one in the city, but all throughout the city, you can find festivals catered to different cultures depending on the event, depending on the year, time of year. But you get to experience all of this, and your kids get to experience all of this. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to travel, want to take my kids traveling, because I think actually traveling to these countries and being immersed in it is a whole different experience. But the fact that I get to experience at least some of it in the city that kids are growing up in is a unique experience, and again, an opportunity that you may not get otherwise living somewhere else. Oh, also, before I forget, also in the schools, they celebrate a lot of different cultures, so your kids get exposed there, and you get to share your cultures with other people that have come here, immigrated here from around the world. So it's just a big sharing of cultures that goes around in Los Angeles, and I think it is a great way to live, great exposure, and truly unique. All right, fourth on our list is entertainment. Now, there is no shortage of entertainment, and if you have kids or you plan to have kids, you know it is so important to keep your kids entertained, because in my opinion, there's nothing worse than having a bored kid, because they're going to drive you crazy. Now, I touched on some of this in that first section about opportunities, but there are a lot of opportunities to entertain your kids here. Of course, the big ticket items, right? Like Disneyland, Magic Mountain, Universal Studios, Knott's Berry Farm. You've got these massive amusement parks. But again, you're not doing that every day. But on a daily basis, there are plenty of things to entertain your kids, whether they love nature. You can go to the beach, again, year-round, hiking year-round. They got 250 parks, or probably more than that actually, in Los Angeles, including some massive parks like Griffith Park, where they've got the Griffith Observatory, the Los Angeles Zoo, the Train Museum, big open space for kids to roam around in, carousel, you name it, they've got it there at this park. You've also got a big park in the San Fernando Valley with Lake Balboa, or they have your typical sports complex, stuff like basketball courts, baseball courts, massive soccer complex, big fields there. But you also have a man-made lake with paddle boats. You've got multiple playground areas, walking trails, and again, big open space where you can have picnics and parties. Very welcoming. You also have the Hanson Dam area in the San Fernando Valley in Sylmar, where you have aquatic center there. You've got equestrian center there. You've got walking trails. Oh, you also have the Discovery Cube there, which is an interactive children's museum that also does special programs throughout the year. They have a camp there as well. And so a lot of opportunities to be outside and be at these really massive parks. But I mentioned the 250 parks earlier, and that's because pretty much every neighborhood in Los Angeles has its own park and possibly rec center, but at least a small park, and in all likelihood some sort of rec center. So there's no shortage of youth programs, summer camps, and sports programs that you can find at all of these programs. They also have a massive Little League system throughout the city. A lot of different regions have their own Little League, so if you're into baseball. And just overall, you have some of the best sports programs, so if you are a sports family, they've got plenty of opportunities to be coached by some of the best coaches in the country that all reside here in Los Angeles. In addition to sports programs, you also have so many different art programs, dance programs, music programs, and then if you're into tech or digital, because we have Silicon Beach here and have so many tech and digital minds here, that they've developed youth programs and youth camps to kind of stimulate and encourage kids to get into that field, which is pretty unique again to Los Angeles, because in other parts of the country you don't quite have those opportunities. And what I love about Los Angeles is pretty much wherever you live, whatever part of the region, is that you're going to have these programs, have these forms of entertainment available to you. And of course, in addition to all of this, you have entertainment venues that you probably have in your own cities that you live in now, like bowling alleys, miniature golf courses, the movie theater, laser tag, and arcades, and of course so much more. So if you are thinking about moving to Los Angeles with a family, we have no shortage of entertainment. In fact, I think you will get exposed to a lot more entertainment, things that you can do with your family, that you don't have to be cooped up in your home. You can get out and do things, get that experience with your kids, and I think they'll love it, and you'll probably love it as well. All right, item number 5 on reasons why you may want to move your family to Los Angeles is also going to be item number 1 of why you may not want to move your family to Los Angeles, and that item is education. The reason why this is going to be on both sides on the list is because there are some great aspects to the education system in Los Angeles, and there are some not so good aspects. So we're going to start off with the great aspects. Now, in Los Angeles, you get exposed to some really cool programs like immersion programs. And a lot of these elementary schools that we have here, which I think is probably the most important part of education for kids because it lays down the foundation, is there are so many schools within the LA Unified District that is now offering this full immersion courses where you can be learning a language, second language, starting basically from kindergarten on up, whether it's Cantonese, Mandarin, Spanish, French, and more. They get a foundation at the beginning. Now, when I was a kid going to school, this was not made available. I didn't get a second language option until I was in junior high, or now it's called middle school. But in today's world, in today's LA Unified School District, you have the opportunity to send your kids to a school where they can get fully immersed, where they are taught in those languages. And it's so much easier to pick up a second language while you're learning it from the beginning. And not only are you learning a language, but you're learning the culture. So it's this full immersion that I think is really cool. Now, I know they offer this in other school districts around the country, but LA kind of started the forefront on this, and it's so spread out throughout the school district that there are so many opportunities if you want, and so many different schools that are offering this that, again, you're not going to be pigeonholed into just going to one school for the Spanish immersion or one school for the Cantonese immersion. You can pick different schools that have these offerings. We also have a class size limit that is limited to 20 students. Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes they push these numbers depending on the capacity of the school, but they have done a pretty good job of limiting each classroom to 20 kids or less, making it a lot easier on the teacher, and that's student to teacher ratio, making the learning a lot better. So that's another thing that we have going for the Los Angeles school system. Now, let's talk about the higher education system here. We have so many universities and colleges just right here in Los Angeles and the immediate surrounding areas that there is no shortage of higher education. And what that means is if your kids don't want to travel for school, or if you don't want to travel for school, or if it's a budget thing, that you have so many opportunities for higher education, whether it's city college, or state university, right here in the city, so you don't have to pay for room and board, that added expense, and they're still getting a fantastic education with some really great minds right here in the city of LA. Or if you don't want to be part of the public school system, you can certainly go to the private route or the charter route, but these private routes can be quite expensive, anywhere between like $15,000 to like $25,000, right around that range. So it could be extremely expensive, especially if you're starting from elementary and pushing through high school, or even just through middle school through high school. That's going to add up quick. That's money that could have gone towards college or university if your kids are on that route. And this range also varies. It could be a little bit more, it could be a little bit less depending on the school and the area, but you do have that option. Now, I've talked about some of the good things that we have here about the education system in Los Angeles, but there are some negatives. Los Angeles Unified School District is enormous. My mom was a teacher there, so she's had first-hand experience. I've heard stories. It is way too big, and it is not run in the best way, in my opinion. Again, I'm not going to get into super politics about the school system here, but it really should be broken up because it is too big and people have too much power, and they're not really able to allocate the resources that are necessary in certain areas because, frankly, they just don't know what they're doing. The other downside to the LA public system is the neighborhood really matters, especially when it comes to elementary, well, actually when it comes to all schools, but we'll start off with elementary school because, of course, that again is the foundation. Not all elementary schools are created equal here. In fact, there are a lot of poor performing schools here for whatever reasons, but the school that you go to depends on the neighborhood that you're living in, and those neighborhoods tend to be more expensive. The housing is more expensive. The better the school, the more expensive the housing generally. So when you're looking to move here, you want to see which school lies in your home district. You can go to greatschools.org. You can reach out to me, of course, and I can help you navigate that system to find which school belongs to the home that you're thinking about moving to. But again, it does matter where you live because you're going to have that home school. Now, when it comes to middle school and high school, this is where it gets really tough for people living in Los Angeles because it is hard to find good middle schools and good high schools. And likely it is not going to be, even if you're living in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood, it doesn't mean you're going to be sending your kids to a great middle school or high school. You may have to send them outside of the neighborhood by getting a special voucher, or if you have a family member that lives in another area and they go there for aftercare, you can use their address. This is also where it becomes important that you become familiar with the magnet program or the gate programs there. This is highly competitive to get into, and you have to start applying for these before you have kids. It's that competitive, and it's based on a point system. I'm not going to get into the details here. If you want, reach out to me and I can explain it a little bit more. But just know that there are different schools that have different special magnet programs. for really enriched studies, but they're highly competitive and there are long waiting lists. And if you don't get into the certain school, but you get into a second choice or a third choice and you deny that second choice or third choice, you have to start all over getting these points to get into the program that you prefer. So again, I'm not going to get into too many details, but the education here is both a mixed bag of great opportunity and it's tough to find those opportunities. All right, the second reason of why you may want to reconsider moving to Los Angeles with a family is that it is super expensive. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole cost of living in LA. I've got a few videos that you can find that on my channel, Cost of Living in Los Angeles, that will give you a little bit more details. But if we're specifically talking with a family, of course, we're going to talk about daycare and childcare and babysitting, because if you got kids, you're going to need this. Daycare is going to be expensive, especially when you compare it to other parts of the country. They could be pretty much between $1,000 to $2,000 a month for a kid. It will depend, that range will depend on how old your child is. The older your child is, when they get closer to kindergarten, the less expensive it is. So it could be really expensive if you have a 2-income household and you don't have the opportunity for a stay-at-home parent. Well, you got to send them somewhere. And if you don't have a family member to send them to, you've got to pay for it, and it can be quite expensive. Now, let's say you want a date night, or if you want an in-home nanny or something like that. Well, to get someone to come with your kids, it's going to be about $25 an hour on average. So again, this is also pretty expensive. So, you know, when you go out to the dinner and a movie or dinner in a bar or whatever, and you're out for 4 hours, you can pretty much tack on an extra $100 to your evening just to go out because you need someone to watch your kids. Now, if your family likes to go out to restaurants, if you have kids, you're probably doing more of a casual dine, not super high end, so we'll focus on the casual dine. You got a family of 4, you're looking around $80 for that family to go out and eat. So that adds up to really quickly, especially if you like to go out multiple times a week. We'll talk about gas because, let's face it, Los Angeles is a car culture. You're going to be driving everywhere, and if you've got kids, you're going to be driving them to different play dates and school and wherever else you need to take them. So gas is going to be important. As of this video, we're on average about $5.10 a gallon for the regular gas. So again, that's going to be probably higher than what you're used to, especially during the summer in LA. We've got a summer blend. They tack on an extra tax during the summer that adds to your gas price. Now, of course, we're going to talk about housing really quickly. Again, you can find more information on my other videos, but you need a roof over your head. So the median price of a single family home in Los Angeles is going to be $950,000. Now, that's only going to get you probably a 3-bedroom, 1,500 square foot home, if that. And again, it really depends on the different neighborhoods and different regions. It could be far above that. If you're talking about a condo, you're talking about $570,000, and that's most likely going to be about a 2-bedroom, 1,300 square foot unit. And again, this will be a lot more depending on the region that you're looking to move to. So when you're moving to Los Angeles and you've got a family, be ready for a bump up in costs, especially in housing, probably childcare and daycare and other aspects of your life. Just something to be prepared for. All right, next on the list is going to be traffic. Now, just like weather kind of seems mundane, traffic may be not on your radar, but when you have kids living in LA, you're going to be driving all over the place. So traffic is going to become a very intimate part of your life, and there is no shortage of traffic here. It can be a nightmare. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is pretty bad. I'm born and raised in LA. I found ways to deal with it. I find ways to listen to podcasts and music, kind of meditate. But for most people, and even myself, it can be very taxing, especially if you have kids in the car. You're constantly hearing, are we there yet? How much longer? I mean, these things are real. And when you have young kids, they're nonstop and they're relentless. It's really hard to travel in Los Angeles and not hit traffic. So all of these activities that I talked about previously in the other video, where you're going to go to the zoo or go to the beach, it's going to take a while to get there. So you got to find ways to entertain kids in the car. We're not big on screen time, so we're not just usually handing them the tablet or the iPad. If you do, no judgment here. I totally get it. We do it sometimes. You don't want to have these unruly kids while you're sitting in the car, stressed out from traffic, stressed out from hearing them being upset that they're stuck in the car. So we come up with fun games, whether we're counting how many red cars we see on our drive, or whatever fun games we can come up with. So just know that traffic is going to become a big part of your life. And again, because you're taking them to activities, play dates, school, summer programs, the beach, wherever it is, you're going to be in the car. Not only does it affect you while their kids are in the car because they're struggling sitting in traffic, but just going to and from work, you're going to be stuck in traffic, and you're going to come home probably stressed out a little bit, and your kids are happy to see you. They come running up to you, mommy, daddy. They're so happy. They want to talk to you, tell you about your day. They want to play with you. and you're just like, man, I just spent an hour in traffic. I just want to be left alone. I want to breathe. I want to eat, whatever it is. You got to be up for your kids because you don't want to disappoint them. So just know that it can affect your stress levels. And especially if you got a family that obviously needs your attention, the combination of the two can be pretty tough, especially when you're getting home from a long work day. So you can see, as I described, traffic with a family here, something to think about, something to consider, because it will become, guaranteed, will become a part of your daily life. Okay, next on the list of items of why you may want to reconsider moving here with a family, moving to LA with a family, is the congestion here. Now, this has a lot to do with traffic. That adds to all the traffic, but it's more than that. The sheer amount of people that we have in the city of LA, you're going to be surrounded by people, surrounded by buildings, surrounded by cars constantly. And sometimes it feels a little suffocating, a little hard to breathe because there's so much concrete and steel, not a whole lot of open space, on top of people feeling on top of each other. And this affects your daily life when you have a family, whether you're going to the supermarket, you're waiting in line to check out, or just the aisles are cramped because there's so many people in the supermarket, or you go to the park and it's just jam-packed with people throwing parties, doing sporting events. Again, not a lot of time to breathe. You're going to the museum, you're going to the zoo. Sometimes you have to buy tickets way in advance, especially if they have special programs, and you get there and it's still packed and you're just trying to walk around, whatever it is that's entertaining you, and you're just kind of cramped. You don't feel like you can enjoy the experience as much. Sometimes that happens in Los Angeles, or you go to one of the festivals here that draws in thousands and thousands of people, not just from the city of LA, but people from the surrounding areas of Los Angeles, and you just feel like you're shoulder to shoulder. This is very real. Or if you go to the beach, you may have a hard time placing your towel somewhat close to the water because everybody is at the beach because it's Los Angeles and there's 300 plus days of sun. So everyone's there. Hiking trails, same thing. You bring your family there, you want to get some fresh air, you got your dog, whatever it is, and you're just surrounded by people in many cases because hiking is so popular in Los Angeles. So you may just not feel like you're able to kind of get away from it all because you have all the people on the same trails as you. And forget amusement parks, they are usually jam-packed with people. So if you go there, expect to be pretty congested there as well. And I feel like this can impact kind of your daily life when you're bringing your kids places. You've kind of definitely keep a quick eye on them because there's so many people that can get lost in the shuffle. And again, just in general, sometimes it's hard for kids to see certain things when they're, whether at the museum or the zoo or whatever entertainment place that you're going to. It's hard for them to see over all the other people there. Or if you take them bowling or to miniature golf and you're waiting in line for your turn, or you've got to wait for a lane to open, or if you're trying to find the right movie time for your kids, but you can't do it today because it's already sold out and you've got to go to the next day, the kids are disappointed. So things to keep in mind when you come to a big city like Los Angeles, that you're going to be surrounded by a ton of people. It's going to add to your wait time. It's going to add to trouble finding parking. And especially when you're paying for parking, the last thing you want to do is circle around. You're like, all right, I got my parking spot. Oh yeah, I got to pay a bunch of money to park here. So all of this is something to consider, especially if you're coming from a smaller city or you're not used to this, or if you're used to a place that has much better public transportation where people are not stuck on the freeways or stuck in their cars or trying to find parking, then this will be different for you as well. All right, the next item on the list is the hustle of Los Angeles. Now, I've talked in some of my other videos that has a relaxed and chill vibe, and it does, but there is a hustle element to here. And depending on why you're moving here, depending on the industry that you're working with, it's really can be hard to find that work-life balance. And a lot of people that are moving to Los Angeles don't necessarily have that 9-to-5 job where they're clocking in, clocking out. A lot of them can take their work home, or if you're working from home, you feel that hustle that you need to do things to get ahead. You don't maybe have that necessarily that set schedule. So you're finding yourself working at all hours of the day, the weekends, the evenings. These are times that are generally meant for your family, and you're there, at a sporting event, your kids, hitting the winning goal, and you may have missed it because you jumped on the phone. Now, I don't recommend it. I don't suggest it. I'm not saying that I do it all the time, but sometimes I do it, especially in the type of industry that I'm in. But it is a tough challenge when you're living in Los Angeles because a lot of times it takes dual incomes, 2-income household, And so both of you are trying to earn that income just to live in LA and enjoy everything that LA has to offer, but it is quite expensive. So you don't have that option to just kind of breathe and step back, or have a parent just to step back and have that parent just there for that kids and getting their needs and their wants taken care of. And sometimes this can affect the family dynamic. I know sometimes if I'm picking a Saturday to go to the beach, then sometimes I'm jumping on a phone call to close a deal or take a phone call. Now, I do my very best to set times where I don't want to be bothered, and I let my clients know that. But sometimes there are urgent matters, and it just doesn't feel like I can get away, and the kids can see that, and they can feel that. And not only does it affect you as a parent, but your kids feel the stress of the hustle because it's so competitive here. Again, we talked about how getting into certain programs for the school can be competitive, and a lot of people are driven to go to university and college here, and there's so many extracurricular activities that you've got to be a part of that it can really be a grind and wear on your kids that sometimes they can't just feel like they can be a kid. And I've talked to family members where they don't really get that feeling from maybe the schoolwork that they're doing, or just in general doesn't feel like everyone's trying to get ahead or push their kids as hard as they are in Los Angeles. And that's a very real thing to consider. And if you're not used to that you're going to experience that here. Not to say that you have to participate in it, but you're probably going to be around it and hear from it from your kids' parents or other kids that are also trying to just hustle and get ahead and do all these extra things instead of just being a kid, being outside, playing, not having a care in the world. I mean, to me, that was some of the best parts of my life, is having the summer breaks and just being and just playing and giving that mind some relaxation and not worrying about having to do a program to get into the school or get into a certain course in the school. I had to take this summer class, and this can really be add to the stress levels when living in Los Angeles. So just be prepared that the hustle is very real here if you become part of it, and you can get kind of sucked up in it, but you don't have to be. And there is a relaxing element to Los Angeles that the city does offer, and if you can take advantage of that as much as possible, the beautiful sunshine, the hiking trails, the beach, and just chill, then that balance is what's going to be key to living in Los Angeles. So you can see there are some good reasons why to move a family to Los Angeles or start a family in Los Angeles, but there are some certain things to consider. So if you are thinking about making the move here to Los Angeles, make sure you reach out to us with phone, text, email, WhatsApp, whichever way, and we'll make sure we guide you when you move your family to Los Angeles. Also, if you like what you saw, subscribe, tap the bell to get notified, comment below, because we love to see questions and comments from our audience. Wow.